And so Paul's mission in Rome, something he wants to communicate to this new church, is to see a unified group of people, and for that unity to be a witness to the surrounding people. In fact, it's quite an odd thing to see this mixed group of people, and that's really what Paul is waiting for. And he's waiting for this group of people to catch that vision. And Paul is a revolutionary because he wants this seemingly impossible unified group to start in the heart of the Roman capital, in a pagan city, no less. That's a revolutionary thing, to have a witness in one of the most difficult places of the time. Now, I need a few images because I'm not a horticultural expert and I don't understand olive trees, so I had to look into this a little bit. This is an olive tree, a picture actually of a grafting onto an olive tree. They were one of the most cultivated fruit trees in the Mediterranean at the time. So I think Paul's using an image that most people could relate to. And they're quite a special tree. This is a really interesting thing, is that they have such an old life. Some of the trees that exist today, some of the olive trees, existed at the time of Paul's writing of these letters. That's crazy. Now, a common horticultural practice was to graft wild olive branches onto established trees. And again, I'm not a horticultural expert, so I had to look this up. I had to figure it out a little bit. There's some reasons for this. One of them is that you think about these old established trees, 2,000 years old, 1,000 years old, whatever, right? They've got an amazing root system. You can think over their lifetime, they've figured out where to put their roots, they've established things. They have proven effective, probably, at producing quality fruit. Then you've got these other wild branches, these little trees that are kind of struggling to get started. It's tough when you don't have a great root system. So you have these thriving little branches, and what people would do is sometimes take those branches and graft them onto this established tree, so that in a sense, this would now induce new fruit really quickly. This little poor tree with its it's got all this excitement about growing fruit probably, but it doesn't have any roots. You can graft it on. It doesn't have to go through its juvenile stage of trying to figure out its root system and everything. So that's one reason, to induce fruitfulness in thriving branches. Another reason for grafting is to repair broken or damaged branches. So something snapped off or whatever happened, right? You can put a graft in and repair it, and you get the same sort of idea. A third reason might be to actually create new hybrid types of trees, which would bear new fruit that might be really interesting, might be different. I think all those images, both of inducing fruitfulness, repairing broken or damaged things, and creating new hybrid trees, they all provide us some kind of interesting metaphors for the way Paul is talking about the Jews, which he's talking and saying they're the roots, and the Gentiles, which he's saying you are these new grafted branches. There's some interesting things there. And so I wonder if this message could mean for us today, for us to consider, do we hold on to any judgments, a sort of inverted judgment, an inverted theological judgment over others in our lives, whether they're friends or family, people from our past, communities from our past? I think that's what Paul is aiming at here. The whole point that he's trying to paint is that this image is meant to communicate that there is a single tree, there's a single family, and it's a family that's rooted in a rich history that Israel has created, that they have actually worked out in their lives. There are some branches that were broken off. Yes, there's some that are grafted in. The point is, we now are all believers that share in one family, so we've got to figure out how to live together in a good way. And so Paul, while being concerned with what resurrection looks like, is also concerned with what leads us to death, the thing that resurrection overcomes. He's concerned about these rooted sins, things like idolatry, pride, greed, all those other things that separate us one from another and from God. Resurrection is something that calls into existence things that do not exist. So concretely, what does this mean for us as the baton carrier? I think one, we should probably learn from Paul's original intent in this chapter, his original mission in Rome to the Roman church, which is two things: to cultivate a diverse but unified body for witness. And so what I think that could mean is it means that we probably shouldn't get too comfortable with any configuration of people within our communities. We need to be open to the new and unusual, the Jew, as it were, to diversity. So, practically speaking, maybe we need to be more welcoming. Be attentive to the outsiders in a room or a space that you share. Be thoughtful to include people in your circles of conversation. Invite those you usually wouldn't into your home. Seek to make belonging happen, not just to belong. Maybe find and invite those people in your lives that you know can't find belonging anywhere. Now, I'll tell you a short story. I live in Caswell Hill. It's close to the downtown. And nearby where I live, there's a hotel with a bit of a reputation. I often see situations that make me feel uncomfortable. Not necessarily personally for myself, but for people, for others. Things make me feel uncomfortable for others. Yesterday, I saw yellow tape, I saw police vehicles all day parked there. Investigation of some sort. And I think as I drive by, what is my response? What is a Christian response to these types of places that have these sorts of perceptions? What is a Christian response to this? And so I was actually on Facebook, and there was some conversation about this specific event from yesterday, and someone was talking about, well, these kinds of places need to be burnt down or leveled or whatever. And to be honest, I resonate with that sentiment a little bit. There is some sort of like anxiety or fear or whatever I have in terms of emotional content with places like that in our world, in our city, in my neighborhood. I noticed on this thread that someone had posted a few comments that I found were quite evocative. So I share them with you, and please pardon some of the intense emotional content of them. So this one person wrote, "I live 2 blocks up from this hotel, so I unfortunately see a lot of what is going on there. Also, because I used to be one of the people in there and still know how many people that live there, it affects me even more. I hate it. I hate how many lives are destroyed there. I hate having my car broken into. I hate listening to sirens all the time. I hate seeing people freaking out in the parking lots. I hate seeing news articles about death and rape and kidnapping. I hate remembering the desperation I felt when I lived in a hotel and did horrible things so I wouldn't be dope sick. And looking at that hole reminds me of it every freaking day." Later in the thread, this same person wrote, as a response to some other comments, "For me to overcome that lifestyle, I needed family support and an opportunity to work doing something I enjoyed. A lot of the people in that building don't have family or friends capable of providing the support they need as they grew up in similar environments. It's a tough battle because the root of the problem is so complex, and just closing the hotel won't fix it, merely send it somewhere else. I've thought about what if it was a shelter like the Lighthouse or a treatment facility with detox and addictions counseling. I wish the province was more progressive with supporting this part of society, but it's not, and I don't know how to get involved to change that." Here I have an example staring me in the face of the world sharing a need, of someone saying help. And I wonder, what is my Christian response to this? Someone who has a different experience of what that looks like, other than just me seeing it as I drive by. That's convicting. And I think, what does that mean to be church with these situations that exist in our neighborhoods?